Addicts, I finally made it to the motherland, the birthplace of Harley Davidson. You have to join me as I experience Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the first time in my life. Addicts, I have loved Harley Davidson since I was around 13 years old. When I was on vacation with my family in San Diego, we walked into a Harley retail store at Seaport Village. And the second I saw that motorcycle on display, I was hooked. Since that day, I have always wanted to ride a Harley. Fast forward 25 years, and I had purchased my first ever Harley Davidson. It's a 2016 Sportster 1200T. It was brand new and had a bluish green paint job with flecks that shimmered in the sun. I rode that bike to Canada and back. I was in heaven. When I told some experienced bikers what I had done, they would almost always say, "You rode to Canada on a sporty?" They couldn't believe it, but I didn't know any different. It was about 18 months later that I realized why they couldn't believe I rode a Sportster to Canada. That's when I purchased Blue, my 2018 Street Glide Special Anniversary Edition. Once again, I purchased it brand new, and this is when I became a super fan of Harley Davidson. When you're a die-hard biker, riding motorcycles becomes a lifestyle. It becomes part of who you are and how the world sees you. I would never downplay the role of God and Christ in my life, but Milwaukee is to a biker what Rome is to a practicing Catholic. If you love Harleys, then you have to make a pilgrimage to Milwaukee, the birthplace of Harley Davidson. It's what you do. You are now part of the story that began as a dream for two friends, William Harley and Arthur Davidson. They didn't just see motorcycles, they saw something that would revolutionize transportation. It may have started in a small shed with an engineer and three brothers who had a dream of selling motorcycles. But today, it's a 120-year-old company that has redefined the meaning of freedom. Imagine what those friends would say if they could see what Harley Davidson has become. I had planned this trip to Milwaukee a few times, and without fail, life got in the way. One time it was a work situation, another was a family event I couldn't miss. It seemed like each year, no matter what, I just couldn't make it happen. That was until on a whim, I decided to book flights only a few weeks in advance. And before you knew it, we were on our way. Here we are, Addicts. We are headed to the birthplace of Harley Davidson. The flight from Phoenix to Milwaukee seemed like it took forever. Eventually, the wheels were on the tarmac, and there I was, trying to find a signal so I could book the Uber. We were finally here. Milwaukee had no idea who just landed in their city. Freaking Boss Hog was in town and ready to hit up everything and anything with the name Harley on it over the next 72 hours. Mrs. Boss Hog joined me on this trip, so it couldn't be all about Harley Davidson. Our first day, we decided to do some sightseeing in downtown Milwaukee. Such a different place than the Phoenix area. Milwaukee straddles multiple rivers, the Kinnickinnic, Menominee, and Milwaukee rivers. Those who live there, I apologize. Those are some difficult names to pronounce. Anyways, there are bridges everywhere, and they literally just rise up from the street when a boat needs to get through. Eventually you learn that when the foghorn blows and the streets start to shake, it's not an earthquake. It's just tourists on a boat disrupting the flow of traffic. Another highlight of the sightseeing were the old buildings and cobblestone streets. The old architecture was amazing. I work in construction, so I always marvel and I'm amazed when I see these buildings and think of how they were built. They didn't have the tools we have or any of the equipment, and it's amazing the craftsmanship and the beauty that these guys were able to put together. After a bit of exploring, we were hungry, so I did what anyone would do. I consulted with my friend Google, and he suggested the Safe House. It seemed like a unique, off-the-beaten-path place to eat and a restaurant you would never find back home. As we approached the address, the storefront looked run down, as if the building was vacant. Google, still leading the way, took us to the side of the building. I was confused. It was a run-down, out-of-business export company. At this point, I was starving. As we walked away, this oddly dressed woman stepped out and motioned for us to come in. I was a bit freaked out, TBH. We cautiously walked in, and wow, were we surprised. The Safe House is a speakeasy providing a themed restaurant experience. The food was okay, nothing to write home about, but the atmosphere was unique, well thought out, and made for a fun dining experience. If you're in the area, give it a shot. Pun intended. You'll be impressed. Oh yeah!
Goodbye, restaurant. If we had sat here and she just pushed the button,
That would have been awesome. I totally would have done that.
And there's space in this one. Oh, and all of a sudden we're in a different restaurant.
What is that?
What's it reveal in the middle?
Lift up the phone.
Hello. I think it rings. Seven, 6. Ooh. I thought the 4 gave out.
They lied to us.
Yeah. Okay. Point of no return. Did we go up there? No, right here. Oh, okay. All right. Was the floor supposed to give out on us? No. Okay.
She lied. Liar.
Thank you. Of course. That was fun.
After a long day of walking and exploring, it was time for some food Iron Horse addiction style. The missus and I are headed to a fancy steakhouse for filet mignon, veggies, and of course, the creme brulee. To say it was delicious would be a huge understatement. Probably the top 5 best steakhouses I've been to. Now it's time to catch some sleep because it's Harley Davidson headquarters tomorrow. Today we are headed to the hometown rally on the grounds of the Harley Davidson Museum. This is a huge complex, perfectly set up for large events like this. The museum takes up maybe 1/20 of the complex, which includes 2 huge open fields, along with retail stores, a restaurant, and of course, the dynamic hill climber statue by Jeff Decker. Today is about taking in everything but the museum. We have tickets for tomorrow that includes a guided behind-the-scenes tour and access to the vault, where they keep all the rare vintage motorcycles. Check out all these amazing motorcycles. And look, they're all Harleys. Seems like a great time to do some shopping. And I'm sure the missus thinks I'm just shopping for shirts and pins. But let's be real, if I find the right deal, someone's probably riding one home while the other one flies. Just saying, it's a possibility. What is a rally if you don't have some good, fun entertainment? To solve this, Monster brought in the BMX bikers as well as stunt riders. TBH, these BMX guys are really talented. The stunt riders, they have some crazy talent and ability to control the weight of a Harley. I can barely keep it shiny side up, so hats off to these guys. They are uber talented. Time to grab some grub at the motor bar and grill, then sit back and do some people watching. That's always entertaining. Addicts, it's been an awesome day filled with nothing but Harley Davidson. No trip to Milwaukee is complete without stopping by a dealership or two. I love to collect the dealer pins. We hit up 2 dealerships on this trip. First, the House of Harley, and second, Milwaukee Harley Davidson. Addicts, today is the day. We are headed to the museum to take in the rich history of the Harley Davidson brand. It's the oldest continually operating motorcycle company in America. The hardest part is deciding where to start. Good news is, I'm on a guided tour. Not sure if you noticed the wristband, but Boss Hog is rolling VIP. The tour starts off fast. The first motorcycle showcased was the 1903 model. This particular one has been heavily restored. I did ask if it was the first one ever made. The answer, we don't know, but the serial number on the motor is the number 1. While this is not the first one ever made, it's pretty amazing to see with my own eyes one of the first models ever designed by William Harley. The museum is set up in chronological order with a few specialty exhibits sprinkled throughout. Let's work our way through the museum and check out some old school Harleys. Finally, this is exactly why we came to Milwaukee. Behind these doors are the rarest of rare Harley Davidson motorcycles. Let's wait for just 1 second and take in the moment. Here we are, Addicts, in the vault, one of the most protected rooms on any Harley Davidson campus. Look at these motorcycles. Some are relics covered in dirt and others are shiny and new. But all of them make up the storied history of Harley Davidson Motor Company. As we work our way to the end of the tour, I can't help but think what Harley and the Davidsons would think if they saw their brand today. When they passed, the only Harleys that were overseas were the ones that fought in the World Wars. Today, they can be found at dealerships in nearly every developed country in the world. I watched the series Harley and the Davidsons again this past weekend. There's a scene where Walter is pleading with the rest of the team to not sell out to Ford. It had been 20 years since they started Harley Davidson. Walter had a surprise in the back. It was the first ever bike off the assembly line. They pedaled and the engine fired up. 20 years later, and it was still running. Walter then said, "We built this, and we can do it again." I doubt this ever happened in real life, but it's the message that matters. This is what America is all about. 4 men who started with nothing and made something of themselves. When times were tough, they were tougher. They picked themselves up, and through grit and determination, they built the most beloved motorcycle brand in the world. Addicts, the real story isn't about motorcycles. It's about overcoming adversity through hard work and dedication to make your dreams a reality. Such a great experience and tour. Seeing the motorcycles was awesome, but this was probably my favorite picture. That's Mrs. Boss Hog thinking about riding one day. If you enjoyed this video, then check out another one. Our videos showcase how the Iron Horse Addicts live the unofficial Harley-Davidson slogan, "Born to Ride." Until next time, live life at 100 miles per hour.